3 weeks after my wife passed, I was sitting in a courtroom while her sister accused me of being an unfit grandfather. And the worst part? She wanted to take my only grandchild, the last piece of my daughter I had left. But let me start from the beginning. My name is Harold, and I'm 63 years old. I spent 38 years working as a high school history teacher in Cedar Falls, Iowa, before retiring 2 years ago. My wife, Margaret, and I raised one daughter. Her name was Caroline. Caroline was everything to us. Smart, kind, stubborn in the best ways. She became a pediatric nurse, married a good man named Daniel, and gave us our grandson, Lucas. For a while, life felt complete. Then, Daniel died in a car accident when Lucas was 4. Caroline was devastated, but she pulled herself together for her son. She moved back to Cedar Falls with Lucas so we could help. For 3 years, we watched that boy grow. I taught him how to fish. Margaret taught him how to bake cookies. Caroline worked double shifts to provide for him, and we filled in the gaps. Then, Caroline got sick. Ovarian cancer. Stage 4 by the time they found it. She fought for 11 months. Margaret and I took care of Lucas while Caroline went through treatment. We drove her to appointments. We held her hand when she was too weak to walk. We promised her we would take care of her son. She died on a Tuesday morning in March. Lucas was 7 years old. The funeral was small. Caroline had wanted it that way. Just close friends and family gathered at the Methodist church where she'd been baptized. Lucas stood between Margaret and me, holding our hands, not fully understanding that his mother wasn't coming back. That's when I saw her. Patricia, Caroline's sister-in-law. Daniel's older sister. Patricia had never liked Caroline. She thought Caroline wasn't good enough for her brother. When Daniel died, Patricia made some comments about how Caroline was raising Lucas, how she worked too much, how she let us help too often. Caroline mostly ignored her, but it hurt. After the funeral, Patricia approached us. "Harold, Margaret," she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "I know this is a difficult time, but we need to talk about Lucas." "What about him?" I asked. "Daniel was my brother. Lucas carries our family name. He should be with blood relatives who can properly provide for him." Margaret's grip on my arm tightened. "We're his grandparents," I said. "Caroline wanted us to raise him. We have temporary custody." Patricia smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. Temporary being the key word. "You're both in your 60s. Harold, you have a heart condition. Margaret, didn't you just have hip surgery? How can you possibly keep up with an active 7-year-old? "We manage just fine," Margaret said quietly. "Do you?" "Because I've spoken to my lawyer. I've spoken to Daniel's parents. We're concerned about Lucas's well-being in your care." Daniel's parents. Richard and Helen. They lived in Phoenix and had barely visited in the 3 years since Daniel died. They sent birthday cards with checks and called on Christmas. That was the extent of their involvement. Now suddenly they were concerned. "What exactly are you saying?" I asked. "I'm saying that Daniel's family has every right to seek custody of Daniel's son, and we intend to do exactly that." She walked away before I could respond. Margaret and I stood there in shock. Lucas tugged at my hand. "Grandpa, can we go home now? I'm tired." I looked down at my grandson. Brown hair like his father, bright eyes like his mother. 7 years old and he'd already lost both parents. "Yes, Buddy," I said. "Let's go home." But even as I said it, I felt something cold settling in my chest. The fear that home might not be his for much longer. The next few weeks were chaos. The court granted us emergency temporary custody, but Patricia filed a petition immediately. Daniel's parents flew in from Phoenix and joined the suit. Their lawyer was expensive, aggressive, and thorough. Our lawyer, a local family attorney named Benson, was doing his best, but I could see the worry in his eyes. "They're arguing that you're too old," Benson told us in his office. "They're arguing that Margaret's health issues and your heart condition make you unfit primary caregivers. They're bringing up the fact that Lucas has been late to school several times since Caroline passed. His mother just died, Margaret said, her voice cracking. He's grieving. I know that. You know that. But they're painting a picture. An elderly couple struggling to keep up. A child falling through the cracks. What about what Caroline wanted? I asked. She told us she wanted us to raise Lucas. She was working on the paperwork before she got too sick to finish it. Without a formal will or custody arrangement, Caroline's wishes are hard to prove in court. It becomes about what's in the best interest of the child. And an elderly couple with health problems isn't in his best interest? Benson sighed. I'm going to be honest with you. These cases are hard to predict. Daniel's family has resources. They have youth on their side. Patricia is 42, financially stable, no health issues. On paper, she looks like a stronger candidate. I left that meeting feeling like the ground was crumbling beneath me. Margaret tried to stay positive, but I could see the toll it was taking on her. She wasn't sleeping. She'd stand in the doorway of Caroline's old room, which was now Lucas's room, and just watch him sleep. Lucas knew something was wrong. Kids always do. Grandpa, why do those people keep coming to our house? He asked one evening. He meant the social workers. We'd had 3 home visits in 2 weeks. They just want to make sure you're happy and healthy, I said. I am happy here, he said. This is my home. I know, Buddy. I know. What I didn't tell him was that his home might be taken away, that strangers might decide he belonged somewhere else, that his mother's dying wish might mean nothing in a courtroom. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for late April. Our chances looked slim. Daniel's family had hired a private investigator who documented every time I picked Lucas up late from school, every doctor's appointment Margaret had, every moment that could be twisted into evidence of our unfitness. And then something changed. It started with Lucas. 2 weeks before the hearing, I was sitting in my recliner, going through old photo albums, looking at pictures of Caroline. Torturing myself, really? Lucas came downstairs in his pajamas. It was past his bedtime, but I didn't have the energy to scold him. Grandpa, I need to show you something. What is it, Buddy? He was holding a stuffed elephant, gray, a bit worn, about the size of a football. Caroline had given it to him when he was 3. He called it Peanut and slept with it every night. Mommy told me to give you this, he said. She said to wait until the right time. I think this is the right time. Your mother told you to give me Peanut? No. Lucas turned the elephant over. There was a zipper on the bottom that I'd never noticed before. He unzipped it and pulled out a small envelope, yellowed and slightly crumpled. Mommy put this inside before she went to heaven, he said. She said to give it to you when you looked really, really sad. My hands were shaking as I took the envelope. When did she tell you this? When she was sick. Before, she couldn't talk anymore. She made me promise. I opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten note and a single key. The note said, Dad, if you're reading this, things have gotten bad. I knew they would. The key opened storage unit 47 at Cedar Falls Self-Storage on Industrial Road. Everything you need is there. I love you. Take care of my baby, Caroline. I stared at the note for a long time. Margaret came downstairs. Harold? What's wrong? Why is Lucas still up? I showed her the note. She read it twice, then looked at me. She knew, Margaret whispered. She knew they would try to take him. She knew everything, I said. The next morning, I drove to Cedar Falls Self-Storage. It was a gray, overcast day, threatening rain. The storage facility was on the outskirts of town, rows of orange metal doors against a backdrop of cornfields. I found Unit 47 near the back. The key fit perfectly. I lifted the door. Inside was a 10 by 10 space, mostly empty except for a few items arranged neatly in the center. There was a filing cabinet, a laptop, a box labeled for Dad and Mom in Caroline's handwriting, and a video camera on a tripod, pointed at a folding chair. I stood there for a moment, unable to move. My daughter had been dying, and instead of spending those final weeks only on herself and her son, she had prepared for this. She had known her husband's family would come for Lucas, and she had built a defense from her deathbed. I called Margaret. Within an hour, she was there with me. We locked the door behind us and started going through everything. The filing cabinet held 3 drawers of documents. The first drawer contained Caroline's complete medical records, including letters from her oncologist confirming her terminal diagnosis and her cognitive clarity throughout her final months. There were notarized statements about her wishes for Lucas's custody, signed by 3 witnesses and a notary public. Not a formal will, but close. The second drawer was harder to look at. It contained evidence about Patricia. Bank records showing that Patricia had taken money from Daniel's life insurance payout that was supposed to go into a trust for Lucas. Emails between Patricia and Daniel's parents discussing how to challenge the situation if Caroline ever became incapacitated. Text messages where Patricia called Caroline that woman and described Lucas as Daniel's real legacy, not hers. And there was more. Documents showing that Patricia had a history of financial irresponsibility. A bankruptcy she'd hidden. A foreclosure on a property she'd claimed to own outright. Evidence that the stable home she was presenting to the court was a facade, funded partly by money that should have belonged to Lucas. The third drawer contained information about Daniel's parents. Richard and Helen had been barely present in Lucas's life. Caroline had documented every missed birthday, every ignored phone call, every holiday where they chose a cruise or a golf trip over visiting their grandson. There were emails where Helen complained about having to deal with Lucas on the rare occasions they did visit. These were the people claiming they had Lucas's best interests at heart. Margaret sat down on the folding chair, overwhelmed. How did she do all this? She asked. She was so sick. She must have used her good days, I said. When she had energy. She was gathering evidence while we thought she was resting. I picked up the box labeled For Dad and Mom. Inside were letters. Dozens of them. Letters addressed to us. Letters addressed to Lucas. Letters for his 8th birthday, his 10th, his 13th, his 16th. A letter for his high school graduation. A letter for when he got his heart broken for the first time. A letter for his wedding day. Caroline had written her son's future from her deathbed. There was also a USB drive with videos. The laptop was set up to play them. The first video was for us. I pressed play, and there she was. My daughter. Thin, pale, wearing the blue cardigan she loved. But her eyes were fierce. "Hi, Mom and Dad," she said on the screen. "If you're watching this, then I'm gone, and things have gotten complicated. I'm sorry. I tried to make sure this wouldn't happen, but I know Patricia. I know Daniel's parents. They've never thought I was good enough. And they've never understood that Lucas belongs with you." She coughed, then continued. "In the filing cabinet, you'll find everything. I've been working with a lawyer friend to put this together. Everything is documented, notarized, and legal. The evidence against Patricia and the others should be enough to stop any custody challenge." She paused, and her voice softened. "I need you to know something. You have been the best parents anyone could ask for. I know I didn't always say it. I know we had our arguments. But watching you with Lucas, seeing how much you love him, it's the only thing that let me be at peace. I know you'll raise him the way I would have. Better, probably." She laughed a little, then wiped her eyes. "There are videos for Lucas in here too, for birthdays and milestones. I wanted him to hear my voice. I wanted him to know I'm still with him, even when I'm not. Please make sure he watches them at the right times. And please tell him every day that his mother loved him more than anything in the world." She looked directly into the camera. "I love you, Mom and Dad. Thank you for everything. Now go fight for my son." The video ended. Margaret was crying. I was too. We sat there for a long time, holding each other in that cold storage unit, surrounded by our daughter's final gift. The hearing happened on schedule, but everything had changed. Our lawyer presented Caroline's documents to the court. The notarized custody statements. The evidence of Patricia's financial misconduct. The documented history of Richard and Helen's absence from Lucas's life. Patricia's lawyer tried to object, to claim the evidence was obtained improperly, but there was nothing improper about it. Caroline had gathered publicly available records, bank statements that were legally hers to access as Daniel's widow, and communications that had been sent to her directly. The judge was an older woman named Harrison. She had gray hair and sharp eyes, and she didn't suffer fools. "Let me understand this correctly," Judge Harrison said, looking at Patricia. "You're seeking custody of a child whose mother explicitly stated she wanted him raised by his maternal grandparents. A mother who documented your mishandling of funds that belonged to her son. A mother who compiled evidence that you and the paternal grandparents have been largely absent from this child's life for years. Your Honor, those documents are one-sided. Caroline was biased against my family. Mrs. Patterson, the bank records aren't biased. The email timestamps aren't biased. The notarized statements aren't biased." The judge held up one of the documents. "This is a statement from Daniel's former business partner confirming that you approached him about accessing Lucas's trust fund for family expenses. Is that biased as well?" Patricia had no response. The judge turned to Daniel's parents. "Mr. and Mrs. Patterson, your attorney argued that you want to provide Lucas with a stable, loving home. Yet according to these records, you visited him 4 times in 3 years. You missed his 5th birthday, his 6th birthday, and his 7th birthday. You were in Cancun when your grandson's mother passed away." "We were already on the trip," Helen said weakly. "We came back early. You came back 3 days after the funeral, according to the flight records." I looked at Richard and Helen. They looked smaller somehow, older. Helen was clutching her purse like a shield. The judge reviewed the documents for a long moment. "I've seen a lot of custody cases," she said finally. "I've seen families torn apart by money, by ego, by old grudges, but I've never seen anything quite like this." She held up Caroline's custody statement. "This is a dying mother who knew exactly what would happen when she was gone. She knew who would come for her child. She knew what arguments they would make. And she spent her final weeks, when she should have been focused only on her own peace and her time with her son, building a case to protect him." Judge Harrison looked at Margaret and me. "Mr. and Mrs. Miller, your daughter clearly trusted you completely. The evidence shows that Lucas is thriving in your care despite the recent loss of his mother. His pediatrician confirms he's healthy and happy. Most importantly, he wants to stay with you. Lucas was in a waiting room with a social worker during the hearing, but we'd been told he'd expressed his wishes clearly. He wanted to stay home. This court's primary concern is the best interest of the child," the judge continued. "And in this case, the best interest is crystal clear. Custody is awarded to Harold and Margaret Miller. The petition filed by Patricia Patterson and Richard and Helen Patterson is denied." Patricia stood up. "Your Honor, this isn't fair. We're Daniel's family. We have rights." "You have the right to petition for visitation," Judge Harrison said calmly, "which I will grant on a limited basis, supervised, once Lucas has had time to stabilize. But custody? No. This child belongs with the people who raised him, the people his mother chose, the people who were there when no one else was." She looked at Patricia with something close to contempt. "And Mrs. Patterson, I strongly suggest you consult with an attorney about the money you took from your nephew's trust fund. This court will be referring the matter to the appropriate authorities." The gavel came down. It was over. Outside the courthouse, Margaret and I held each other. The April sun was warm on our faces. "She saved him," Margaret said. "Even from the grave, she saved him." "That's who she was," I said. "That's who she always was." We picked Lucas up from the social worker's office. He ran into our arms. "Grandpa, Grandma, can we go home now?" "Yes, Buddy," I said. "We're going home." "Forever?" "Forever." That evening, we showed Lucas the first video from his mother. It was the one she'd made for him right after she got sick, when she knew she might not make it, but before she got too weak to pretend otherwise. "Hey, my little man," she said on the screen. Her hair was already starting to thin from treatment, but she was smiling. "Are you listening?" She leaned closer to the camera. "I am always with you. Every time you laugh, I'm laughing with you. Every time you're scared, I'm holding your hand even if you can't feel it. Every time you do something kind, or brave, or silly, I'm right there, cheering you on." Lucas was sitting between Margaret and me on the couch. He was very still. "You're going to grow up so big and strong," Caroline continued. You're going to do amazing things. And sometimes you'll forget me a little bit, and that's okay. That's what's supposed to happen. But whenever you need to remember, just close your eyes and think about the good times. The time we built that blanket fort in the living room. The time we made pancakes at midnight because we couldn't sleep. The time you caught your first fish with Grandpa and you were so proud. Lucas made a small sound. Margaret put her arm around him. I love you, Lucas. I love you more than anything in the whole universe. More than all the stars in the sky. More than all the fish in the ocean. More than all the dinosaurs that ever lived. And I know dinosaurs are your favorite, so that's a lot of love. She smiled, but there were tears in her eyes. Take care of Grandpa and Grandma for me. Okay? They're going to take such good care of you. And when you're older, when you watch the other videos I made, you'll understand more. For now, just know that everything I ever did, everything I am, it was all for you. She kissed her fingers and pressed them to the camera lens. I love you, my baby. Be good. Be happy. Be brave. The video ended. Lucas was quiet for a long time. Then he said, Grandpa, can I watch it again? As many times as you want, buddy. We watched it 3 more times that night. That was 5 years ago. Lucas is 12 now. He's in 7th grade, plays baseball, and has his mother's stubbornness in the best ways. Margaret's health has gotten better with treatment, and my heart, well, it keeps going. Doctors say I'm doing fine. Patricia never did pay back the money she took from Lucas's trust. The authorities investigated, but she filed bankruptcy again and moved to Texas. We hear from her occasionally, usually around holidays, asking if she can see Lucas. We've allowed supervised visits a few times. Lucas isn't interested in more than that. Daniel's parents faded away almost entirely. They send birthday cards with checks. They call on Christmas. Some things never change. Lucas has stopped expecting anything else from them. We've watched 6 more of Caroline's videos together over the years. One for his 8th birthday, one for his 10th, one for when he started middle school, one for when Margaret got sick again and we were all scared, one for when his best friend moved away and he was heartbroken, and one for last month when he asked if he could join a travel baseball team that would require him to be away from home a lot. Each video is different. Some are advice. Some are memories. Some are just Caroline talking to her son, telling him she's proud of him, telling him she loves him. There are more waiting. For his 16th birthday. For graduation. For the first time his heart gets broken by someone he loves. For his wedding day. I wonder sometimes what she said in those. I haven't watched them. They're not for me. Lucas keeps Peanut the elephant on a shelf in his room now. He's too old for stuffed animals, he says, but Peanut stays. The hidden pocket is empty these days. The key hangs on a hook in my office, next to a photo of Caroline. I think about that storage unit a lot, about what it must have taken for her to build all of that while she was dying. To think about a custody battle she might never see while her own body was failing. To put aside her fear and her pain and focus on protecting her son from the future. She was 29 years old. She should have had decades left. But she used what time she had. Every minute. Every ounce of energy. She built a fortress around her child, one document at a time, and she trusted us to hold it. That's what love looks like, I think. Not just feeling it, doing it. Even when it costs you everything. Even when you won't be there to see it work. Lucas asked me once why his mother went through all that trouble. He was old enough to understand the court case by then, old enough to feel angry about Patricia and his other grandparents. Why did she have to do all that work? He asked. She was so sick. Couldn't she have just trusted that things would work out? I thought about it for a while. Your mother didn't leave anything to chance, I said finally. Not when it came to you. She knew that hoping things would work out wasn't enough. She had to make sure. She had to fight for you even when she couldn't fight anymore. But how did she know they would try to take me? She knew because she paid attention. She saw how Patricia acted. She heard what Daniel's parents said when they thought no one was listening. She put the pieces together. And she still had time to write me all those letters? Make all those videos? She made time, I said. There's a difference. Lucas was quiet. I wish I remembered her more, he said. I remember some things. The blanket fort, the midnight pancakes, but it feels like she's fading. That's what the videos are for, I said. You can watch them whenever you need to remember. It's not the same as having her here. No, I agreed. It's not. But it's what she could give you, and she gave it with everything she had. Lucas nodded slowly. Then he said something that stayed with me ever since. Grandpa, when I grow up, I want to love someone the way Mom loved me. I put my arm around him. You already do, buddy. You already do. Margaret passed away 2 years ago. Her hip had healed, but her heart gave out in the end. She went peacefully, in her sleep, with Lucas and me holding her hands. I found a letter she'd written for Lucas, hidden in her jewelry box. I don't know how long it had been there, probably since Caroline died. She'd learned from her daughter, I think. The letter said all the things grandmothers want to say to their grandchildren. How proud she was. How much joy he brought her. How grateful she was to be his grandmother. It also said this: Your mother saved you before she died. Now it's your grandfather's turn to watch over you. And when he can't anymore, you'll watch over yourself. That's what our family does. We take care of each other, no matter what. Lucas is 14 now. He's taller than me, which he thinks is hilarious. He has his mother's eyes and his father's laugh and his grandmother's stubborn streak. I'm 68 years old. My heart is still ticking. I've got a few more years in me, I hope. Enough to see Lucas graduate high school, maybe even start college. There's a video waiting for him from Caroline for his high school graduation. I've never watched it. But sometimes, late at night, I think about what she might have said, what wisdom she might have squeezed into those final messages. I like to imagine she told him to be kind, to be honest, to stand up for himself and for others, to remember where he came from and who loved him. But mostly, I think she told him what she told him in that first video, and what she told him in every video after. I love you. I'm proud of you. I'm always with you. That's the thing about love like that. It doesn't die when the person does. It lives on in storage units and stuffed elephants and midnight pancakes. It lives on in letters and videos and keys hidden in unexpected places. It lives on in the people who carry it forward. Lucas carries it now, and when I'm gone, he'll carry it still. That's Caroline's real legacy. Not the documents or the evidence or the court case. Those were just tools. The real legacy is a boy who knows, without any doubt, that his mother loved him enough to fight for him even after she was gone. And that, I think, is enough to build a life on. If you're watching this and you're going through something similar, if someone is trying to take what's yours, if you feel like you can't fight back, remember Caroline. Remember a 29-year-old woman with stage 4 cancer who spent her final weeks building a fortress around her son. Remember that you can do more than you think. That love isn't passive. That protecting your family means preparing for battles you might not live to see. And remember that the people who try to take what isn't theirs, they're counting on you to give up. They're counting on you to be too tired, too overwhelmed, too defeated. Don't give them that satisfaction. Fight for your family. Even from the grave, Caroline did. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you for listening to my story, for spending time with Lucas and Margaret and Caroline. If this resonated with you, if you've ever had to fight for someone you love, I'd be honored if you'd share this story with others who might need to hear it. Like and subscribe if you want to hear more stories from Buddy Chronicle. And if you have a story of your own about love and loss and the lengths we go to protect the people who matter most, leave it in the comments. I read every single one. Until next time, take care of each other and take care of yourselves. This is Harold signing off.